The call came on a Thursday. "Your mother's taken a turn, Isla. It's time." My father's voice was gravel, worn smooth by a decade of silent vigils. My mother, Eleanor MacLeod, the vibrant, storytelling heart of our family, had been fading for years under the slow creep of early-onset Alzheimer's. Now, at the end, there was a cruel clarity. She knew us, and she was saying goodbye. I drove the 6 hours from my Edinburgh flat to the Highland village of my childhood. The stone cottage smelled of peat smoke, lemon polish, and the faint, metallic scent of illness. Dad was a shadow in his armchair. Mum was propped in bed, startlingly small, her once fiery red hair now white and wispy. "Isla, my bird," she whispered, her voice a thread. Her lucidity was a gift and a gut punch. Her green eyes, my eyes, held mine with fierce intensity. "In the attic, the oak trunk. The key is under the loose floorboard by the hearth. It's for you. Wait until after." She didn't explain. She didn't have the strength. She squeezed my hand, a ghost of her old grip, and slipped back into the fog. She passed peacefully 2 days later with the rain whispering against the window pane. The funeral was a blur of tartan and tears, of neighbors bearing casseroles, and stories of the fierce, funny woman who could trace our MacLeod lineage back to Robert the Bruce. We were Scots through and through. It was our identity, woven into our wool and our bones. A week after we buried her, I remembered. The attic, the trunk. With Dad lost in his grief downstairs, I pulled down the ladder. The attic was a time capsule of dust and memory. In the corner sat a small, iron-bound oak trunk I'd never seen before. I found the loose floorboard by the fireplace downstairs, its secret hollow containing a single tarnished brass key. The trunk opened with a sigh of old air. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was a beautiful, old-fashioned porcelain doll with dark hair and almond-shaped painted eyes. Beneath it lay a bundle of letters tied with a faded ribbon, postmarked from Vilnius, Lithuania in the 1970s. They were in a language I couldn't read. And at the very bottom, a sealed, pristine DNA test kit from a major ancestry company, with a note in my mother's later, shakier handwriting. "Dearest Isla, if you are reading this, I have failed to find the courage to tell you the truth while I breathed. My cowardice is my greatest shame. This test holds the answer to the question I see in your eyes sometimes, the one about why you never felt you fit the mold of this family, of this place. Do it. Know who you are. And please, find it in your heart to forgive me. I loved you more than life, but my love began with a theft. All my love, always. Mum." My hands trembled. The words swirled in my head. Cowardice? Theft? Never fit the mold? I'd always felt a step out of sync. My love for complex languages and history amidst a family of practical farmers and engineers. My darker hair against their reds and blondes. A restlessness the steady Highland landscape couldn't soothe. I'd chalked it up to being a dreamer. Now it felt like a clue. Downstairs, my father was staring into the fire. "Did you find anything?" he asked, his voice hollow. I held up the test kit, my heart a wild drum. "Do you know what this is about, Dad?" He looked at it, and his face, usually so stoic, crumpled. He put his head in his hands. "She promised she'd tell you. She swore she would." "Tell me what?" My voice was barely a whisper. He told the story in broken pieces. The year was 1989. They were struggling with infertility. A friend of a friend knew of a woman, a young Lithuanian student who had come to the UK and found herself pregnant, alone, and desperate. The student wanted her child to have a stable, loving, two-parent home. It was a private, closed adoption. No official records, just a handover in a lawyer's office in Glasgow, a wad of cash for the young woman's fresh start, and a baby, me, placed in my mother's arms. "She was so beautiful, so sad," my father wept. "She kissed your forehead and walked away." My mother, she was terrified you'd feel less than ours. She made us swear to bury it, to be McLeod's, to never look back. I stood there, the world dissolving around me. The genealogical charts, the clan stories, the tartan, the pride. It was all a beautiful, elaborate fiction. I was not a McLeod. I was not Scottish. I was a foundling, a secret, a child bought from a frightened girl in a Glasgow office. The foundation of my life cracked and fell away into a dark, unknowable chasm. I need to know, I said, the words raw. I need to know who I am. With my father's silent, ashamed nod, I swabbed my cheek, sealed the kit, and sent my identity into the void.
The wait was a special kind of agony. I moved through my life in Edinburgh like a ghost. My friends, my job as an archivist, my boyfriend, all felt like part of a play I was no longer acting in. I looked at my father, the only father I'd ever known, and saw a kind, complicit stranger. The love was still there, but it was tangled with a profound sense of betrayal. The email arrived 4 weeks later, on a bleak Tuesday morning. Your ancestry DNA results are ready. I clicked with a heart that threatened to crack my ribs. The first screen was a map with a shocking bright circle over the Baltic region. Lithuania. Not a sliver, not a percentage. The headline read, "Your genetic heritage is 98.7% Eastern European, Lithuanian." The remaining sliver was Finnish, likely from a shared Baltic heritage. There was no trace of the British Isles, no Celtic, no Viking, nothing. I was, genetically, Lithuanian. Scrolling down, the site offered DNA matches, distant cousins, third and fourth with Lithuanian names, Jankauskis, Petrauskis, Kozlauskis, and then one match highlighted as close family, first cousin. Her name was Gabriele Jankauskaite. She lived in Vilnius. She had a profile picture, a woman in her 50s with intelligent eyes, high cheekbones, and a smile that felt hauntingly familiar. This was real. This was a person, a cousin, a direct link to the blood I carried. I didn't know what to do. The revelation was too vast. I spent days in a stunned haze, staring at the map, at Gabriele's face. I pulled out the letters from the trunk. Using online translation tools, I painstakingly deciphered them. They were from a woman named Irena to her sister in Scotland. They spoke of loneliness, of missing home, of the gray Glasgow rain. One, dated late 1988, mentioned a sickness and a difficult decision. The last letter, spring 1989, was short. "It is done. She is with a good family. Do not ask me of her again. My heart is ashes. Irena." Irena? My mother? It had to be. The pull was magnetic, irresistible. I had a name, a city, a living cousin. I booked a flight to Vilnius. I told my father I was going. He looked old and broken. "Bring her home," he said, not meaning my biological mother, but me. "You'll always be my daughter, Isla, no matter what you find." The flight was a blur. Touching down in Vilnius felt like landing on the moon. The language on the signs was a dizzying scramble of accents. The architecture was a mix of medieval and Soviet, not gray stone cottages. Nothing was familiar, and yet some deep cellular part of me seemed to sigh, "Yes, this place." I messaged Gabriele from my hotel, a simple, terrible message. "Hello, my name is Isla McLeod. I believe we may be related through DNA. I am in Vilnius. Would you be willing to meet?" The reply was almost instantaneous. "Gabriela, we have been waiting for you. Come to this cafe. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. An address followed. I didn't sleep. I walked the old town, the cobblestones echoing under my feet. I saw my own eyes reflected in the shop windows. For the first time, I saw a face that belonged.
The cafe was all warm wood and the smell of strong coffee and cinnamon. Gabrielle was already there, sitting by the window. She stood as I approached. Up close, the resemblance was undeniable. The shape of our eyes, the line of our jaw. We stared at each other, two strangers bound by biology. "Isla," she said, her English lightly accented. She didn't hug me. She took both my hands, her gaze searching my face. "You have her mouth, Irena's mouth." We sat. Over bitter coffee and sweet shakotis, the story unfolded, not as a secret, but as a family history finally being told to its missing chapter. Irena Jankauskaite was Gabrielle's aunt. She had been the brilliant, rebellious one in their scholarly family, winning a rare cultural exchange spot to study literature in Glasgow in 1987, near the end of the Soviet era. She fell in love with a Scottish fellow student. He promised her the world. When she got pregnant, he vanished. She was alone, far from home, in the pre-internet age where a phone call to Lithuania was a major event. Her visa was expiring. The shame for her traditional family would have been severe. "She wrote to my mother, her sister," Gabrielle explained, her eyes soft with old sorrow. "She said she found a kind, infertile Scottish couple who longed for a child. They would give the baby a life she could not. It was the most painful act of love she could imagine. She took their money only to buy a fake passport to get home. She never spent a penny of it. She carried that guilt like a stone until she died." Died? The word was a punch. 5 years ago. Cancer. She never married, never had other children. She was a teacher of literature, beloved by her students. But she was melancholy. A part of her was always missing. She told me about you, only me, on her deathbed. She said, "If she ever looks, Gabrielle, help her find us." I wept then for the mother I never knew, who lived a life of quiet penance for giving me away. Gabrielle held my hand. "There is more," she said gently. "Your father, the Scottish student, she never named him to us, but after she died, I found an old journal. She called him A. I think she loved him very much, and his rejection broke something in her." She took me that afternoon to the Rassos Cemetery, a beautiful, serene place on a hill. She led me to a simple black granite headstone. Irena Jankauskaite, 1967 to 2018. She loved words and lost things. I placed my hand on the cold stone. "Hello, Mother. I'm here. I'm found." Later, Gabrielle took me to the flat where Irena had lived. It was a small, book-filled space, frozen in time. On the wall was a gallery of photographs, and there, in a faded photo from 1988, was a young, laughing Irena, her arm around a handsome, dark-haired young man. He had a familiar, cocky smile. On the back, in Lithuanian, it read, "Me and Alastair, Kelvin Grove Park." Alastair, a Scottish name. A cold dread began to mix with my grief. I asked Gabrielle to help me search Lithuanian immigration records for that time period. We found Irena's entry, and listed as her point of contact in the UK, Alastair Craig, University of Glasgow. My blood ran cold. Craig, not a common name. I knew an Alastair Craig. Everyone in certain Edinburgh circles did. He was Sir Alastair Craig, a powerful conservative member of the Scottish Parliament, a married man with 3 grown children, a pillar of the establishment, a man famous for his traditional family values rhetoric. The pieces slammed together with a force that left me dizzy. The vanished Scottish student, the fake passport, the secrecy. He hadn't just abandoned a pregnant girlfriend, he had paid, through intermediaries, to have his problem disappear into a closed adoption, allowing him to return to his privileged life unblemished. My mother, Eleanor, might not have known the full truth. Her and my dad might have just been a desperate couple told a story of a poor, single foreign student. I came to Lithuania to find my mother. I had found my father, too,
and he was a liar living a very public lie. I returned to Scotland a different person. I went to my father first. I told him everything about Irena, her love, her grief, her death, and about Alastair Craig. The betrayal on his face was for me, for the cruelty of the man who had sired me. "What will you do?" he asked, fear in his eyes, fear of losing me. I took his work-roughened hands. "You are my dad. That will never change. But he doesn't get to live his pristine life built on my mother's ruin and my erasure." I didn't go to the tabloids. I went to him. I secured a meeting through his overwhelmed parliamentary assistant, using my real name, Isla MacLeod, which meant nothing to him. In his fancy Edinburgh office, surrounded by portraits of his family and Scottish heroes, I saw him up close. I saw my own chin, my hairline. He was polite, puzzled. "How can I help you, Miss MacLeod?" I placed the faded photo from Irena's wall on his desk. Then I placed my DNA results next to it. I said nothing. He picked up the photo. His face went from confusion to recognition to dawning, abject terror. He looked from the photo to me, really looked, and his complexion turned gray. The confident politician vanished, leaving a terrified, cornered man. "Irena," he whispered. "My mother," I said, my voice quiet and steady. "You have 1 week to resign from public life, citing personal reasons. You will make a substantial, anonymous donation to a charity supporting single mothers and Lithuanian cultural exchanges in Irena's name. You will do this quietly. If you do not, every detail, the DNA, the photo, the adoption money will be delivered to every news desk in the country. You built your career on family. I will show them what you did to yours." He was too shocked, too guilty to even deny it. He just nodded, broken. I walked out. I didn't feel triumph. I felt a deep, solemn justice. I planted a Lithuanian oak tree in my parents' garden in the Highlands. My dad helped. I speak to Gabrielle every week. I'm learning Lithuanian. I visit Irena's grave when I can. I am Isla MacLeod, raised by Scottish parents. I am also Isla, daughter of Irena of Lithuania. I am not one thing. I am a bridge between a lie and a truth, between a secret and a reckoning. The DNA test was a key, not to a simpler identity, but to a more complex and honest one. And in the end, I didn't lose my family. I found it in all its painful, beautiful, sprawling entirety. The truth didn't set me free from being a MacLeod. It simply showed me I was also a young Kauskaita, strong enough to carry both names and to finally let the ghost of a sad, brilliant woman rest.